The honourable member for Solomon, I understand, is about to rise and seek the call. Right. The honourable member for Solomon.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I rise to talk about the inquiry into the child protection system in the Northern Territory. Mr Deputy Speaker, on Monday the 18th of October 2010, yet another report was released that will bring distress to all caring human beings about the treatment of children in the Northern Territory. The inquiry into the child protection system in the Northern Territory was announced by the then Minister for Child Protection, the Honourable Mullenderi McCarthy, on the 11th of November 2009, and the Board of Inquiry was appointed by the Chief Minister, the Honourable Paul Henderson, on the 9th of December 2009. The inquiry made a total of 147 recommendations, but in reality is a distressing indictment on a system that has failed our children. Mr Deputy Speaker, I stand here before this place both saddened and angry at what has occurred over a long period of time. I have listened to the response of the Northern Territory Labor Government and Minister Macklin and how they've spent hundreds of millions of dollars, and yet they haven't successfully protected these children. When I hear these comments, it is as if by saying that spending the money it somehow absolves them of any type of responsibility or accountability. It drives me to ask, who is responsible? Why shouldn't those responsible for administering these programs accept some of the blame? Why shouldn't parents accept some of the blame? Why shouldn't people who abuse their children physically, mentally and emotionally be dealt with the most harshest? Blessed are the children, Mr Deputy Speaker. There is nothing more blessed than the innocence of a child. To abuse that trust is to set up a future society for failure. It is simply not good enough to sit back and say, we've spent hundreds of millions of dollars. Mr Deputy Speaker, of the 147 recommendations, 2 relate directly to actions as needed by the Commonwealth Government. I will read these dot points, but point out that the Honourable Kevin Andrews MP, Shadow Minister for Families, Housing and Human Services, has already indicated that the Coalition supports both these recommendations. They are 6.2, that the Northern Territory Government explores with the Commonwealth the trial, development or expansion of existing infrastructure in remote areas, for example women's safe houses, daycare centres and health clinics, to provide ongoing community therapeutic residential options for mothers and children where the latter have been identified as part at risk of removal into foster care before failure to thrive, neglect or otherwise inadequate parenting. The trial of such options would need to include the development of a therapeutic intervention model and staffing supervision options. And 6.4, that the Northern Territory Government seeks the cooperation of the Commonwealth in undertaking a strategic review of child and family wellbeing services in the Northern Territory. The review should inform that the development and implementation of a joint strategic plan around service planning and funding in order to overcome fragmentation, inefficiencies and duplication, and to target services where they are most needed. Mr Deputy Speaker, let me put both these options this way. The Commonwealth must adopt a Big Brother approach to this problem. I do not believe that any Australian, or in fact any Territorian for that matter, will oppose the protection of children. It is absolutely unspeakable that a society like Australia in 2010 could be faced with such horrendous outcomes as those outlined in this report. Let me make it clear to the Gillard Labor Government, to the Henderson Labor Government, you are being judged, you are being watched and you will be judged. I don't care how much money you tell the Northern Territory Society you'll pay. I want to know how many children's lives have been bettered and saved. I also call on Australia's leaders, especially our Indigenous leaders, to step forward because your children, our children, need you. I ask all members of this place to ensure we keep a vigilant watch on how this matter is addressed. Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker.
I thank the honourable member for delivering her maiden adjournment speech.